There's something inside you can't deny. You hear the call of your creator. I made you for more, unlock the door. I wanna restore your glory. So rise.
In my senior year of high school, I joined my speech and debate team. I didn't actually want to talk in front of people, but my boyfriend was in the class, I needed an elective, so I just went for it. Up until then, I had had very few actual experiences with public speaking. I had been in choir, and I tried taking an acting class, but when it came time to get up on stage, I froze. And I just walked right off, and I took a C- for the whole semester. So very much to my surprise, I actually did pretty well in my speech team. I made it to the state tournament. I was able to memorize the poems. I was able to use my voice and my body to interpret the pieces and move people. I was feeling confident, and I was so proud of myself. Then came time for national qualifiers. This is a significantly broader competition. It is a 2-day event, and people drop off by the end of the night. And I honestly, genuinely didn't expect to do well at all. And then I found out at the end of the night that I made it to day 2. Well, I panicked. I called in the next day. I was sick. I mean, in all honesty, I felt physically sick. The idea that I might have to go far enough to compete nationally was terrifying, but the idea of more people seeing me and noticing me was horrifying. I couldn't do it, so I didn't. Now, how did I go from being a person who could not stand to be seen to standing in front of you here today? As a published poet who performs on stages, who posts public videos online, and who shares their most deepest, vulnerable self in the form of writing and art with the world. Well, I first had to come to the realization that I wasn't being very honest with others or with myself. For years, this persistent fear of being seen took over every area of my life, from my work and my hobbies to, well, most painful of all, to my relationships. Getting sick before a scary opportunity or any social interaction was a pattern for me. It was a habit I picked up because of the way I grew up. I grew up in homes with alcoholism, addiction, domestic violence, and lots of very real fear. Saying the wrong thing could mean that I could be seriously hurt, so I learned to lie. I lied to get out of trouble. I lied about how I felt. I lied to my parents. I lied to my friends. I lied to myself. Lying kept me safe. If I felt afraid of being truly seen for who I really am, I just made myself be whatever was the safest option. Whatever wasn't going to end up with me being kicked to the ground in anger or with a busted lip to hide the next day. I kept myself safe at all costs. So much so that even when I did want to say the truth, sometimes I wasn't in control of what came out of my mouth. Earlier in 9th grade, I had gotten into some trouble. I ditched school with a friend. We went to Kmart and we stole some eyeliner. Not my proudest moment. We got caught, and the cops called my dad. I was in big, big trouble. And then later, he was asking me all these questions, and he asked me if I had ever ditched school before, which, of course. And I distinctly remember my brain saying yes, while my head shook no. It felt like I was outside of my body looking in, frozen. I hated that feeling. The first few years after high school and after I left home were very confusing for me. Entering my early marriage and the working world was this huge culture shock. I mentally knew that I was no longer in the same situation I had grown up in, but my body kept acting like I was. I was just pushing through each day. I was having panic attacks all the time. It took all of my energy just to wake up each day. And honestly, I just didn't want to. I knew this was not the life I wanted. I had wished for so many years to just have the freedom to be happy, to have a life full of love and art and friends. And I just couldn't make it happen. I felt like a failure. I just wanted to be normal. So I sought therapy, because that's what everyone says you should do. Up until then, I hadn't really shared with anyone the kinds of thoughts I was having or how I really felt about myself. So when I finally did say the full truth to a psychiatrist, I was diagnosed with severe obsessive compulsive disorder, along with depression and PTSD and a bunch of other stuff. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel crazy. I felt relieved. Maybe I wasn't evil. Maybe this was treatable. I was taught that your thoughts aren't reality. Just because I think it doesn't make it true. I was also taught to recognize all of the ways that my body was using physical symptoms to keep me safe. Suddenly, there was this light at the end of the tunnel, if I could just get there. I was taught breathing exercises. I was taught about sleep hygiene and positive affirmations and the importance of drinking water. Honestly, everything just sounded like a giant joke. But I did the things, or I tried to. I would sit and count my breaths. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. And nothing happened. I felt the same the first million times I did it. I changed the color of my sheets. I put my phone away before bed. I set an actual bedtime. And then I laid in the darkness for hours, waiting for my brain to act differently, and it just didn't. For a very, very long time. It was a very scary and very tiring time for me. I was physically exhausted all of the time. But I kept doing the things. Then one day, I was a passenger in the car, and the person driving almost didn't stop at a red light. And I had just tiny little, very quick thought that said, I don't want to die. I hadn't thought that before. I had spent a lot of time practicing all these safe and healthy habits and all of these safe thoughts, and it had felt so ridiculous for so long that when I finally did have a good thought, because remember, not wanting to die is a good thought for me. Yes. I was finally able to believe that all of this work was for something. I finally felt like I didn't want to die. I wanted to live. Following this concept, if I just do the work, trust the process, the results will come. My medication helped. It made it so I was no longer having panic attacks daily, and I wasn't getting sick after every little social interaction. And I wasn't having as strong of a physical reaction to the world around me. I felt safer reaching out and trying to make new friends and acting like myself in front of people. Trying to make and keep healthy and safe relationships was one of the biggest hurdles I had to overcome. And I quickly had to contend with the reality of all the what-ifs that I was so scared of. I committed to regular social interactions, like church and groups and coffee dates. They were terrifying. I'd come home and I'd go over every detail and every word and every possible thing and every possible way that I could have ruined it. But I did the thing. I made a commitment to myself. I will be honest about my thoughts, my feelings, and my perspectives, even if I am terrified of being disliked, of being annoying, or of being hurt. In a matter of a year, I had 3 situations happen where relationships ended because of this commitment. The first one happened simply because I just stopped playing the role that I had been assigned. I had a friend where I had to do what she said was okay. And I had to agree even when I didn't. And I had to stay quiet to keep the peace. And I remember the day it ended. We were on a walk, and that morning I had committed to myself that I was going to be honest no matter what. So, when the conversation drifted to a topic that we disagreed about, I didn't stay quiet, and I simply asserted that I don't see it that way. And I was met with quiet anger. The walk ended, and so did years of friendship. And I thought that this was going to feel horrible. But again, I felt relieved. I felt like I could finally question things about my life, my faith, and my future. The world didn't end, and neither did I. Now, since I can remember, the only way I felt safe the only way I truly felt like I could be honest about my thoughts was by writing them down. Okay, in 3rd grade, I got this cute little lock diary, and I wrote down the name of a boy I liked. I then came home to my journal ripped up into pieces all over the floor by my little brother. And I was so scared. I scrambled to pick up every little piece of paper with any kind of writing on it, and I vowed to never keep an actual diary ever again. It was too dangerous. What I started doing instead was writing down my thoughts in the form of poetry. I would scribble coded notes in the back of my school notebooks with the hopes that no one would ever find them, but if they did, they wouldn't understand what it meant. I knew I had years of poetry hidden away that I had never allowed myself to think was good or useful in any way. Then one day, I thought, what if? What if I put them all together and I made them into a book? Just for myself, of course. It would be really nice to see a progression of my life over the years. What if I then committed to actually publishing the book, under a pseudonym, of course? And I don't have to tell anyone about it ever. I'll just see what happens. What if I actually shared a piece with someone? What if I let them know that I wrote it? What if they liked it? I followed my new trusty motto: just do the thing. Follow each step by step and trust the process. Ignore all the bad thoughts telling you that this is a bad idea and that you shouldn't do this because what if people ridicule you or hate you, or what if they see you? I went from sitting on my couch with stacks of old notebooks, going over, trying to take pictures of old cursive poetry and ramblings, to put into one big cohesive document, to realizing that I have a story and I have a message that I want to share with the world. And to do that, I was going to have to do the thing. Follow the steps, ignore the bad thoughts, and trust the process. I went from randomly posting online if anyone would be willing to read it, to getting actual beta readers, to writing a book inquiry, to submitting that book inquiry to an actual publisher, to actually getting published. It was then through this process that I realized I would actually have to talk about my book with the world. And I would have to read my poetry out loud in front of real people. And I would have to actually let people see me. I still break every day. Some cracks are big, some are small. They hurt, but God fills them with gold, and they mean something. I mean something. I never stay broken. I was born whole, from dust to gold. Imago Dei, a refined talent, worthy resolve. Thank you.